Hey, Magic Makers, it's Kim here. And I wanted to talk to you about how do you get the most out of a coaching situation. And I know that, many people might, get a little confused as to like what's coaching, what's not coaching. And so I just wanted to kind of give you from my perspective. Like I've been a trainer slash coach for over 15 years. And when I first started out in this business, they don't teach you about how do you deal with people in the real world, right? When I first started a personal trainer, they teach you, how to program how many bicep curls to do and how to make sure that, your client is getting a safe and effective workout. But as a trainer, within, I'd say, a month of working with clients, I found that there's way more to people's health than how many bicep curls they can do. That your clients are dealing with real life stuff, and that impacts what their workout should be, what that workout looks like. And many times, as a trainer, I'm using air quotes here, as a trainer, I wasn't really prepared to understand that, my clients, when they come in, some of them can't leave their stuff at the door, right? They got kids, over 40-hour jobs, spouses, their own personal health problems, aging parents, and you name it, right? They're dealing with all that stuff, and that's up inside their head while they're working out. But while they're working out, it's like they're not there, they're not focused, potentially. Their sleep, they might be eating crappy. And so as a trainer, I realized like I had to be more of a coach. I couldn't just prescribe workouts. I had to be like, okay, what's going on with you as a whole person versus just taking this one sliver of your life and saying, do this, right? Because, many times like, I'd love to do that, but I got to take my kid to here. And then, my husband's traveling, then I'm traveling, blah, 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 blah. There was a lot of moving parts. So I had to shift into coach mode, right? I had to put on my coaching hat and say, how can I help these, mostly my clients were women, did I help these women navigate life while trying to, put on the freaking cape and be a superhero while trying to please everybody under the sun. So coaching isn't about what to do. It's a collaborative process, right? At least from my perspective, if you work with me, it is a very collaborative process. And over the years of my working with coaches, I have found that I've had the most success when I have had that collaborative relationship where I was able to try a few things, see how it worked for me, how could I apply it to my life, and then come back and say, okay, you asked me to do A, B, and C. I did A, B, and C. B, not so much, but A, awesome. C, right? So then then the coach be like, all right, we tried A, let's tweak this a little bit and see if it works here. Let's tweak that a little bit and see who works here. Because as a coach, I work from scientific knowledge, right? This is like a biological, physiological fact of life. But then I also throw in anecdotal. I've worked with thousands of clients. This is what I've seen. And it's like I take the science and I take the anecdotal stuff and I marry it together. And I'm like, okay, give this a shot and see how this is going to work for you. Because it's only a hypothesis at this point, right? And, I've been doing this for over 15 years. So 80% of the time it works. 20% of the time, someone's going to be an outlier, and that's all right. I know I'm an outlier. I'm that person that, you see those drug commercials and they like rattle off all the potential things. I am that person who at the very bottom is that one thing that like 0.0001% of the people experience. I'm that person. So I totally know that there are those outliers. So coaching, it's a collaborative process, and you share your goals with your coach and they work with you to come up with solutions. It's a partnership, right? It's like a relationship is the way I look at it. And as a coach, my job is to help you find your blind spot, right? Because all of us think our ish don't stink. But it's like, okay, have you fully considered this? Have you fully considered that, hey, you're not getting a lot of sleep? Have you fully considered that, hey, you're not eating enough food, so that's why you always feel so dang tired? Have you fully considered that, you know what, you go nutso on the weekends? How do we stop you from going nutso on the weekends? Right? Where many people come and they want to be educated. Yes, while you're being coached, there is an education component to it, but you're the driver, right? As I have 4 phases that I believe everyone goes through when it comes to weight loss. Everyone has to have a mindset shift. Everyone has to look at their nutrition. Everyone has to look at their habits. And then we also talk about exercise. Those are my 4 components that I'm going to work all of my clients through. However, if you are coming to me as a private client and you tell me what your goals are, and your goals are more about mindset shifting, we might not talk about exercise or habits just yet. We might just talk about how do we start with getting your mindset shifted, right? Whereas if you come to me and we work through a particular, I sell several courses, you might be like, you know what, right now, I just want to put on my blinders and I just want to work that mindset piece. Awesome. We'll just work that mindset piece, right? You might come to me and you might be like, I want to learn a little bit more about nutrition. Great. We will talk about nutrition in, whatever, program I'm running at that particular time. And throughout the course of the year, I run 4 different programs. I'll do something on mindset. I will do something on exercise. I'll do something on nutrition, and I will do something on habits. But it's a continuum where, as a private client, we might hit on all of those in one particular check-in, or we might just be stayed focused on exercise for a while. We might just stay focused on habits for a while. But as a private client, you are the driver. You drive how fast and how slow we go. When we're in a course, yes, no one gets left behind, but it's like there's a curriculum. That's the word I'm looking for. There's a standard curriculum that, this week we're going to do this, and this week we're going to do this, and this week we're going to do that, right? So that way, and as in all of my courses, there's a little coaching so that we can take, I've given you this information. How can I take this information and apply it to my life? Okay. So that's the difference between like coming on and working with someone as a coach, and then working with someone who's just putting together a program, right? A course, if you will. And, as a client, talking from my own personal experience, as a client, you want to find a coach who's a good fit, right? You don't want to just find that client who like, oh, it just seems like, their social media looks really good. They seem really popular. They seem up for it. They seem, but it's like, you need to know, like, feel connected to that coach, right? And it could be the way they talk. It could be past experience. It could be the types of clients that you see working with them. It could be a referral. For years, my business has thrived on a referral basis, and for all the people who have ever referred someone to me, thank you so much. Love you, pieces. But the best coaches are someone that I realized who got me, right? Who got me, but also challenged me, because I can stay in my comfort zone. It's comfortable. Think about it. It's like, I think of your comfort zone as like, like in the wintertime and it's like freezing cold out and you just want to just like snuggle down into your bed. That's your comfort zone, right? Like, why get out of bed? Why be cold? Why put your feet on that cold floor? So they really got me. They knew how to bring out the best in me. And a few weeks ago, I had, my first competition coach on, and, we talked about like why she was my coach and why I continued to work with her for a really long time. Because I got the best transformation from her, because she knew exactly when to push and when to like pull back. I also got the best transformations from working with different coaches, be it on a business side or fitness side, is that I got when I was very clear about what I was looking for, right? If I aim at nothing, I'm going to hit it every single time. But when I went in with clear expectations, right? I went in and I said, I want to step on a fitness stage. Boom. And I let go. I didn't try to steer or drive. I was like, I want to step on a fitness stage. I know nothing. Guide me. Same thing with business. I was like, I want to create this online business space. I know nothing other than I want to create this online business. And for a while, it was like, okay, I pretty much recreated what I did at the gym. And now I'm like, you know what? Now I'm like, you know what? These are the 4 things that I know I see my clients are struggling with. They're struggling with their mindset. They're struggling with exercise. They're struggling with nutrition, and they're struggling with habits. So that's what I do, right? That's exactly what I do. I'm no longer that online trainer who will just train you. I'm a trainer who's like, this is the transformation I bring, right? I'm working with women who are over 40, who are just done following the rules, and they want to feel fit and comfortable in their bodies, right? They want to look in the mirror and be like, dang, yeah, I got this, versus, damn, I got to hide myself. Like, how do I strategically cover myself up versus I feel so good and comfortable in my pants. I can button my pants. I can wear pretty much 80% of my closet. Those are the people that I'm looking for. And how do you have that kind of transformation, right? It's that I got clear about what it is that I wanted. Now, if you're someone who's like, I don't really know what I want, let's have a conversation, because I can really help you to like discern. Is that the word I'm looking for? Discern what it is that you want. Like, let's start to work with you to unpack the layers of what you're trying to achieve. Because when you start to unpack the layers, right? Because when someone comes to me, I always say squishy goals, right? When someone comes to me with squishy goals, I want to tone up. Okay, describe tone. Like, what is in your mind? What does tone look like? Because if I have squishy goals, I'm going to get squishy results. But if I know, like I say this example all the time because it freaking works. A goal is like GPS, right? All of us have GPS, be it on your phone, in your car, whatever. I can't just punch in. So I'm going to use Boston as an example because I live here. Mass Ave. It is a long street. It starts in Boston and it ends out in Lexington. So that there's a good 20 miles of this road. I can't just type in Mass Ave because I could end up in Boston or I can end up in Lexington. It's either way, depending on where I want to go. It might not be where I want to end up. So I have to literally punch in that address. So when someone tells me that they want to get tone, I'm like, where's the address? Like, how do I punch in tone into a GPS? Right. This is not me making fun of you. This is me saying, you know what, if you're struggling to get results, how clear are you? Second piece is, are you always moving the goal line? Right? Are you always saying, oh, I want to get tone. Oh no, I want to run a marathon. Oh, I want to put on muscle. Oh, like, no, you have to stick with one thing long enough to see a change. And I challenge you to give yourself minimum 12 weeks at something, right? We can make tweaks in that 12 weeks, but if I'm changing my mind every, minute, I'm not going to see anything. I'm going to see bupkis. Okay. So how do you get the best results? There's five pieces here, 5 pieces to get the best results. So the first one, be coachable, right? Be coachable. So what that means is that you are open and receptive to receiving feedback. Because, if you come to me and I say to you, hey, can we get a little bit more clear about your goals? And you're like, what do you mean? It's already clear. Like, we're going to have a problem. Like, because I'm like, I want to make sure that you and I are on the same page, right? So be coachable, be open to the feedback, and be able to share, right? So feel comfortable and confident that like you can share with your coach. And, I do health. So like sometimes there's some like embarrassing things you want to share. I don't judge, right? No coach judges. Anything we're like, okay, all right, yeah, I've seen that before. Or, okay, you might want to see a doctor about that, right? But for the most part, we're like, all right, so for me, it's information. Like the more information I have, the more I'm able to kind of whittle it down to say, okay, this is where we're going to start, Samantha, versus you not giving me all the pieces. And then I check in with you like, oh, I never told you I'm allergic to this, or, oh, I never told you that I broke my arm, so I couldn't work out, right? So that's why as a coach, we want to really refine where we're starting so that we can, get you on the right path to Mass Ave. but you also have to be willing to, try it and share the feedback, right? Like I said in the beginning of this podcast, I rely on my my clients being collaborative with me. I ask a lot of freaking questions because I want to be like, all right, you're telling me this is what happens. Okay, so based on what you just told me, we should try this. Okay, based on what you just told me, we should try that. And if I need more clarification, I'm going to ask for more clarification, because I don't want to send you down like the wrong road. Like, I want to make sure that like I understand what you said to me, so that I can say, oh, okay, this is what we're going to try, right? So that we're not, no one's spinning their wheels. Seriously, like I spent decades spinning my flipping wheels, and I know that you are tired as well. All right. But also be willing to know that, you have to do it in order to experience it, right? There are no quick fixes here. And coachability, it taps into your mindset. This is the big piece. It's like, it makes us say, do I have a fixed or a growth mindset? And I think I've talked about mindset, but just in case I haven't, here's a quick recap. So if I have a growth mindset, like you feel that like, you can make a change provided you put in the effort, right? That is a growth mindset. A fixed mindset is like, you know what? This is who I am. This is the cards I've been dealt. It is what it is, right? So it's like if you have a growth mindset, and you can have both, right? You can have a hybrid, a growth in a certain area and a fixed in another area, and that's okay. And as we work together, we will work to really help to see if we can kind of move your dial more towards that growth mindset. The third place is get uncomfortable, right? I talked about the bed, and it feels so comfortable and squishy. And, you have to be open to learning something new, like hearing a new theory and testing it out. And, a lot of this is like, sometimes I will ask my clients to eat more food, right? They've been eating like a bird for decades. And I'm like, you know what? You're not eating enough. That's why you're always hungry and craving like a crazy person. That's why your energy is in the crapper, so it's like, let's, break up with the, I only eat, X number of calories. I don't eat carbs after a certain time. Like, let's start to experiment and open up our window, open up our door to see if I might get a different response, right? Because if you're not getting the changes that you want on the path you're on, something has to change. And that might mean getting uncomfortable. I have a client right now who is experiencing digestive issues, and her medical doctor is saying it's her age, and I was like, but everyone who is your age should be experiencing digestive issues, and I've never heard of that happening. So until your medical doctor can start to figure out what the heck's going on with you, why don't you experiment with your food, right? Maybe it's, we've all experienced this, back in our 20s, 30s, we could eat a certain food, and now that food is like, oh, heck no, right? It's like, I can't eat peppers. I used to be able to eat peppers. I eat peppers now. I get crazy heartburn. So guess what? I don't eat peppers. So with her, we're fooling around with, is it something in her current nutrition that's causing her to have these issues? And if that's the case, then problem solved, right? But we gotta have to kiss some frogs, right? And it's not this overnight process. And she'll be like, Kim, how long before I could go back to eating my Ezekiel bread? Because she loves it. And I was like, you got to tell me how you feel, right? Going back to that feedback piece. Like if I say, okay, we're going to pull this out just to see how you feel. And if you haven't told me how you feel, it's still gone until you tell me how you feel. If I pulled it out and you still feel the same, then it's not the Ezekiel bread. If we put it back in and you're like, oh crap, I feel worse, it is the Ezekiel bread. So it's like, we have to have these little experiments, but there has to be feedback, right? And we have to get uncomfortable that maybe I might have to find a few new recipes for a month, and and hopefully it's not something that you absolutely love that we have to pull out completely. The fourth place, do the work, right? You can't, I used to see this all the time, especially when I was a competitive fitness coach. Someone would come to me and they're like, I want to do a show. Awesome, let's do it. I'm like, when's the show? They're like, I want to do a show in June. Perfect, we got plenty of time. All right, this is where we're going to start. We're going to start with A, B, and C. And then they would kind of do A, they would kind of do B. I'm like, okay, what's going on? Like what about these three things are challenging for you? So we can start to, I can give you like other ways to kind of like slowly dip you into the pool, right? Because in my past, I was that coach who was like, if you can't dive into the deep end with a rock, you ain't gonna make it. But then I realized that like not everyone has that like game face, right? Not everyone has that game face, or their game face is like a radio dial, right? Their game face, like they decide that they want to do this. Click, radio goes on. Then it's like the radio soft. And then we can slowly turn up the radio. So like the volume is like getting louder and louder and louder. So you got to do the work. And so what the work means is you got to take the actions. But again, going back to that feedback piece, if you're asked to do A, B, and C, you have to say, you know what, right now, that's a little bit too much for me. And then we're like, okay, what feels comfortable, what feels challenging but doable to you, and then we can start there, and that resets like how I would approach you. Like, okay, I'm giving you 3 things at a time is a little overwhelming. Great feedback. So now I know if I give you 2 things to do at a time, does that feel okay? Are you better at changing your nutrition over changing your exercise? Are you better at changing, some of your lifestyle things over changing your food, right? So then I kind of get to learn and know, so that as we go through our process, I'm not going to like overwhelm you. And then you feel like you have to hide from me, because you can't hide from me, because I always try to find you. And, here's where you start to begin to understand yourself, right? And people always say to me, Kim, how do you learn all this stuff? I learn all this stuff because everything I tell you, I've applied to myself, right? And so it's like, you have to like track things, especially if we're chasing down a problem, right? So if we're chasing down a problem of, like I mentioned, the woman with her digestive issue, every meal you eat, write it down. Every meal you eat, did you feel gassy? Did you feel bloated? Did you feel full? Like, what did you feel? So that we know those combinations of food work. Am I pooping, right? Those things. We need to know that. So that way we can be like, okay, those foods, they're go or a no go. Same thing with sleep, right? If you're not sleeping through the night, we have to say, okay, what happened the night before? Like, to kind of do a CSI, right? They come in, they look at the crime scene, and, they see the blood, they see the body, they see the, Colonel Mustard in the corner with a knife, right? And then they kind of recap what they think happened. So it's like, this is where the work comes in, because we have to become our own detective, because when you become a detective, that's more feedback that you can give to me. And then I could be able to say, okay, let's try A or B, let's try C. Or, what, when you go to your doctor, make sure they do this, or they look at this test, or, hey, have you tried going to a specialist who deals with blah, 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 blah. Right? Or that helps me to tap into some of my resources to be like, hang on, let me ask, I work with a lot of registered dietitians. I work with a lot of functional nutrition doctors. So then I could be like, oh, you know what? Let me ask my functional nutrition doctor if, what they should do. Right. So it's like, that way I can kind of pull in my resources and help you out. Here's the thing, run your own race, right? You gotta run your own race. First, you're not behind or ahead, right? The first thing I always, like, when people say to me, oh, I'm so behind. Behind what? Behind who? Like, where's the stopwatch, right? Where's the stopwatch? Where's the starter gun? There is none, right? So think to yourself, you're not ahead, you're not behind. You're where you are, and own where you are, right? There's a reason for where you are the way you are. I'm gonna get a little woo here. There is a season and a reason for the season that you're in, because we have lessons that we need to learn in this season. And if I don't learn the lesson here, I'm going to repeat it. I'm going to repeat that lesson over and over and again until I learn it, right? So that's our body's way of like beating us over the head with a hammer. Learn it, learn it, learn it, learn it. So your results are based on your efforts. So like I said, if you're someone who, if I give you 3 things to do and you're like, it's a little crazy at work right now, I can't really commit to that many things. Great. Then we're going to only do 1. So you have to be okay that right now in your season, you can only do 1 thing, right? Versus maybe in a couple months down the road, you're like, hey, my schedule's a little looser. I can open up the door. I could do more things. You have to be okay with where you are. You have to be okay with the pace you have chosen, because you can't say I can only do one thing at a time and expect to lose 500 pounds overnight, right? That's just not going to happen. So be okay at the speed that you are willing to work at, because it's your efforts that are going to dictate your outcomes, right? And so I always say this, and I think I've said it multiple times. So if I'm repeating myself, I'm doing it. I look at myself and when I brush my teeth at night and I say, did I do everything I could do today? And this isn't an invitation to beat the crap out of myself. This is like, you know what? I bailed 5 minutes early on my cardio today. You know, I could have lifted 5 extra pounds on my deadlift today. You know, I didn't wear my sleep guard last night and I didn't really get a good night's sleep, right? So those are the things that I want you to start to think about. Those are calls that I want you to call, because I'm getting a phone call right now because we're having a snowstorm, or we had a snowstorm, and now the city is calling me to tell me that I can park on the street. And so if there are people who on social media that you follow, there's so people in your lives who are like, why aren't you here? Why aren't you there? Why aren't you here? Then I want you to think about unfollowing them. All right, so I'm glad that you heard all of that. The parking ban has been lifted. All right. So run your own race. I want you to think about this as your long-term strategy, right? We are going for the long term. We are done with these short-term BS, right? We've done enough short-term crap to last a lifetime. So you're running the long race. We're running a marathon, okay? The last piece here, own your actions. Own your actions. And so this is a huge, for some of you, it might be a huge mindset shift, right? So I want you to think about it as this. No more arguing, no more blaming, no more complaining. Okay, so this is what it looks like. I once had a client who I would say, hey, you know, the reason why your body composition isn't changing is you're working out too much. You're spending too much time. You're spending too much time at the gym. I would love for you to try, if we can scale back, you know, let's take baby steps. If we can scale back our workouts to at least 1 day a week, have 15, you know, scale back your workout by at least 15 minutes. She was someone who was working out 7 days a week, and she was doing a boot camp 2 days. She was working out in the morning and then going back for a boot camp 2 days a week, right? So I was like, you're over exercising. So from a recovering over exerciser, I know that's very challenging for her. So I said, could we step away and scale it back by 15 minutes? So on a day that you go to the gym, can you just scale it back by 15 minutes and let's start from there? Arguing is, oh my God, I need to do that. That's the only way I can manage my stress. That is the only way that I can get results. And, you know, as a coach, I was like, my goal is to try to help you find your blind spot. Your blind spot is you're an over exerciser. And I get that. I was an over exerciser. So you're telling me that you want to make these changes in your life. You want to make these changes in your physique. I need to understand where we can start, right? Where can we start? Because if I argue for my limitations, I keep them all the time and twice on Sunday, right? So that's an argument, right? Food. I am a very social person. Food is how I socialize, you know, going out to dinner with friends, family, whatever. I must keep my food this way. Okay, great. I don't want you to not socialize. I don't want you to be that girl who's carrying a jug of water and carrot sticks. But could you take your food and make sure that it's mostly focused around protein and vegetables when you are going out, right? Can you take your food and can you focus on that every time you socialize with your friend, does it have to be food focused? Can it be a walk? Right. So it's like, can we start to shift some of those mindsets? Because again, if I argue for my limitations, I'm going to keep them and I'm not going to lose that weight. Blaming. You told me and it didn't work. Okay, let's just scale that back. Like what were the actual steps that you took? Right. The snow, I couldn't go because it was snowing outside. The gym, they changed their hours. Everyone was on all the pieces of equipment, right? Those are like blaming people outside of yourself and then just complaining like, oh my God, I just can't get this weight off. Like, I can't believe it. This weight is just never going to come off. Oh, and so-and-so is this and so-and-so is that and blah, 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 right? So those are like, that's just always going to keep you down in the dumps. Never going to help you rise up and be able to see other possibilities. Huge mindset here, right? Huge mindset shift here. So on the other side of that, it's like, we're going to open up our ear and start listening and saying, okay, for the over exerciser. Okay. So she's right. I haven't seen any change in my body composition or, scale hasn't moved. My clothing still fits the same. So what's one step I can take, right? Let's work together to brainstorm so that it doesn't make me feel so crazy, but at the same time, I start to feel like I can own that change. And then own it, right? If you made a mistake. So again, talking about the woman who's a socializer, like, oh, Kim, I went out and you know what, I did. I didn't focus on the protein and, it was, all you can eat nacho night. And I just went ham on the nachos. Okay. Own it. So now how do we make a shift? If it's all you can eat nacho night, what do you do? Right. How do you make that shift? And how do you, instead of wallowing in that? And then the last thing is like, it's positive steps, right? So it's like something happened. How do we, turn that around? How do we make how do we make a positive out of a negative, right? And it can be small things because so many people will say to me, oh, I don't have the motivation. Well, motivation is fleeting, right? Motivation comes from taking an action. And when I take a smaller action, then I feel motivated because I took a smaller action. I felt good. That feeling is the motivation, right? Where many of us try to do all the things and then I got no motivation because I try to do all the damn things. So think about how do we scale it back so that our actions become small, and then the smaller our action, the more positive we get. And then I feel like I can do it over and over and over again. So this was really about, as we move further into the year, as you look into your goals, how do we start to say, this isn't going to be a year that I give up on myself. This is a year that I'm like, you know what? I have some stuff to work on. We all have stuff to work on. If you are my A+++ with a side of A++ listener, you are always working on something. So how do we say to ourselves, okay, I got stuff to work on. And out of the things that, Kim just talked about, am I coachable? Do I get uncomfortable? Do I do the work consistently? Am I running my own race, or am I thinking about where I was 5 years, 10 years, heck, 20 years ago? Or am I looking out my window and seeing my neighbor does this, my friend at the gym does this, my sister-in-law does this, right? Are we just putting our blinders on and be like, what works for me right now? And then am I owning my stuff, right? Owning your stuff is like for me, I think it's the biggest part here. Like the more I can own when I'm falling on my own knees, the more I feel like you can really move it forward, that where you can really move the dial. Are you, even if someone suggests to you, are you still stuck but you told me I can't have eggs and I don't know what to do with myself because I can't have eggs, right? You have to, I always say to people, if you have to ask for what you want, you have to ask for what you need, because no one's going to read your mind, right? I would love to be a mind reader. That would be fabulous. Maybe no, because some people have some weird thoughts and I don't want to be in there. Um, but you have to communicate, right? As working with a coach and being a coach myself, you have to communicate. The more you can communicate with me or any coach, the more we're going to be able to help you and assist you in whatever it is that you're trying to achieve. All right, friends, have a fabulous day. And I will talk to you later, Magic Makers. And if this resonates with anybody, do me a favor, screenshot this and reply back. Ask me questions. You are not bothering me at all. All right, ladies and gentlemen, Magic Makers, enjoy the rest of your day.